My name is Rex Hansen, product manager for ArcGIS Runtime. We'll be joined by John Foster, resident specialist in all things runtime, actually. And so he'll be driving some demos later. But first I'd like to dive in. We've got a little under 30 minutes, so we're going to take you on a... Is this going to work? If my slides will move. Here we go. We'll get started. So, the ArcGIS platform, quite extensive, rich, deep in capabilities and analytics. It does provide a common model for developers to take advantage of this common, rich, specification-driven, really device or platform agnostic capabilities for being able to share maps, scenes, analytics, different types of data formats, and really collaborate around a common shared experience. Right? So the platform itself provides that as part of its sort of core or foundational work for being able to be able to deliver data and analytics in a common way. Right? So these common design patterns are available for any client, including web and native APIs. And so what we can see here is we've got a set of maybe different types of layers or maps or different ways or recipes for configuring content and creating that content and then sharing that either through our desktop products, through the enterprise, through ArcGIS Online, and then consuming that through a common set of APIs and specifications that we can then use in your apps, your native or your web apps. Right, so this is pretty fundamental, and we'll show how this works on a number of different platforms and solutions at the end of this session, how we can share or utilize the ArcGIS platform to share some of this content in a common way. But first, let's dive in. So you're choosing the right platform. You want to be able to choose a platform that's right for you. So first, let's get some definitions out of the way. In general, we're talking about being able to build out clients, the right client platform for your situation. We're looking at both native and web strategies. So with a native strategy, you're looking at the best device integration capability you can provide. You might be working with out-of-the-box functionality, working with the platform either online or disconnected, and being able to take advantage of native development skills that you have, whether you're a C# developer or a C++ developer, and then be able to leverage the capabilities that are associated with that native app development experience and take advantage of local resources and capabilities on devices. Right? So that's one thing that native really caters to. Native also provides a set of cross-platform solutions too, which we'll touch on here briefly. So if you're looking at being able to leverage your development skills and target multiple platforms and still take advantage of that native experience, you can do that. Alternatively, web strategies, which use web technologies such as HTML, JavaScript, CSS, are great for delivering high-capacity applications that are usually connected at this point. So you're working with a connected device or in a connected scenario. It's using a built-in application, a browser, whether that's a standalone browser or browser control and maybe a hybrid solution. And this being best for situations where you don't necessarily know what your clients are going to be using. Right? But you do know you need to deliver a solution, and it needs to be very device or platform agnostic, and you can take advantage of these connected workflows to be able to deliver a web solution. Obviously, JavaScript is designed to be cross-platform because you're working with a browser, a set of browsers that are available on multiple platforms and on multiple device categories. We have an ArcGIS API for JavaScript. We also have a Leaflet API that supports using or leveraging web technologies across multiple platforms. So the question stands, which one's right for you? Well, there's really two different parts to that. The first one is, what do your users need? Right? So what are the expectations of your users? What devices do they expect to use? Right? Is it a well-refined or a well-defined set of devices? They need applications to run on iOS and Android devices as part of the enterprise. Maybe they need things to work on Windows or Linux desktop PCs. Or maybe you don't know. Maybe it's designed for more of a general consumer focused application. And those applications could come from a variety of different mobile or desktop devices and maybe different browsers in that capacity. So what type of devices are you expecting your users to consume this application on? What type of interaction do they need to have with those devices, with the hardware, the sensors on those devices? Right? So do they need access to the gyroscope? Do they need access to location? Do they need access to the camera? Is that functionality that you need to be able to gain access to and be able to use effectively? And then lastly, do they need to work offline? Do they need to be able to work with a solution that enables them to, if they choose, go offline or work offline completely? Is it partially disconnected or completely disconnected? Is that solution something that that needs to be thought of or considered for your user community? So that's part of it. Is what do your users expect? What do they want? There's also a factor of the complexity of the application. Maybe it needs to look the same on every platform. Maybe it needs a very responsive UI. Maybe it needs to be integrated with an existing application that you have. It's not something you're just building from scratch. Maybe it's not even map-centric. So once you understand the expectations of your users, you'll end up getting a list of devices or platforms and expectations associated with that. So if your users are targeting iOS, Android, and Windows, great. There's some solutions that you can consider there that refines the technologies that you can target. At that point, you need to evaluate what is best for your development team. Now, in most cases, as developers, you already have a skill set, right? You developed or enhanced a skill set in one or many areas, and in those areas, you're able to develop and rapidly develop applications and solutions quickly. So which of those development environments are you most familiar with? Which of those development environments is your development team most familiar with that you can leverage and build applications quickly, effectively? If you're looking at being able to target or having to target multiple platforms, take a look at cross-platform technologies. Obviously, JavaScript is one of them, but if you need to target native applications, we have a set of runtime SDKs that target developer experiences that can be built or can target multiple platforms. Now, the key here, too, is that this may change over time, right? So maybe today you have some requirements based upon your users or customers, and maybe your development team has a skill set today that may change in the future, right? So you might have you have a decision that you make today that's right for today, and a decision that you might need to make down the road when you have more information, or when you bring on new customers or new projects or new efforts, right? So keep that in mind. This is flexible, and once you make a decision, you can change it. Actually, you don't have to lock it in. So let's talk about cross-platform development. Now, one thing that's nice here is being able to save time and money, right? So the more time it takes to develop an application solution, the more money it takes, and obviously that eats into revenues, profits, and we'd like to make sure that you can get the best bang for the buck, right? So that you can achieve the greatest amount of success with the least amount of effort, actually, as possible. And so being able to leverage a cross-platform development experience is pivotal. So one of the benefits that enables you to share some of the thought process, analytics, and workflows is being able to share source code, right? Whether it's JavaScript for a web technology, or let's say it's C#, or it's C++, or it's Java for a native technology, being able to share that application code is pretty critical. What this also does too is if you need to share code across multiple targeted platforms, generally you need to have a good design, and it enforces that design so that you can share your code adequately and effectively. Obviously, one of the major benefits here is it means that you can make your app available to multiple users on multiple devices on multiple platforms, which is critical. There's a couple of challenges though. It's not really a silver bullet in the sense that if the UI needs to be different on different platforms. So you need to have something that feels a bit more immersive for an iOS device versus an Android device versus a Windows device. That might require custom work, right? Platform-specific targeted work to make that application feel and look immersive. There are some idiosyncrasies amongst the platforms, whether it's OS-specific or it's browser-specific or browser on different platforms. You need to be able to accommodate for those, and sometimes that can be a bit of a challenge, right? So that can take more time, more effort. The more time and more effort might increase cost. There's obviously additional time and effort in maybe even training on a new technology or getting familiar with a new platform that needs to be targeted with an existing technology. So something to think about there is the amount of challenge or challenges that are associated with using a cross-platform solution. Even as, for example, with the ArcGIS Runtime SDK for .NET, where you can target Windows, iOS, and Android, a lot of folks that use .NET or C# are familiar with the Windows environment and targeting that, but not quite as familiar with iOS and Android. So it might take some time to get familiar with some of the idiosyncrasies associated with those platforms. So you have to factor that into choosing a cross-platform solution. Now with that in mind, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague John, and he's going to walk us through some examples here of being able to share common workflows, common data across the ArcGIS platform, but also target multiple devices.
Hey everybody, can you hear me okay? Yeah, it's a little noisy back here. All right, cool. So I got a lot of stuff to show you. Hopefully we'll be able to get through all this. And if you have any questions, catch us after the session. So when we talk about the cross-platform development, all right, Rex already brought up all the different SDK technologies that we offer. And the main ones that we want to focus on for this discussion is JavaScript. All right, JavaScript will allow you to deploy a JavaScript HTML5 CSS3 code base to just about anywhere a browser can run. So I'll show you a bunch of different browsers running, and we can say, okay, yeah, that works. But hold on a second, we get the, which input am I? Sorry about that. Oops. All right, there we go. Okay, so the other thing that you have to be concerned about is that if you're doing cross-platform development, it's going to be an investment for you in hardware. All right, unless if you use something like our App Studio and a cloud build type solution. If you want to build for iOS, you need to have a Mac, and you need to have the Xcode and the build tools. If you want to build for Windows, you need to have a PC and Visual Studio or the build tools on there. And for Android, you could develop just about anywhere. All right, so for the most part, depending upon what kind of devices you're targeting would depend upon what kind of hardware you're going to need access to. The other thing that we have a lot of experience with is that you need to define your minimum and optimal devices. And you need to make sure that you have all the devices to test on. All right, testing in emulators is not going to help you. You really need to test on the devices that you're targeting. So that's very important so you can determine the functionality is working and the performance meets your requirements. All right, so first we have a JavaScript application here running that's showing a vector tiles layer, and it's showing 3 different hosted feature layers. One with polygons that define public open spaces in the Los Angeles area. One that's a set of lines that are trails that are available to the public in the Los Angeles area, and then we have the trailheads. All right, so this is a map that I built on ArcGIS Online, and we can use in JavaScript, and actually we're going to use the same map in all of the platforms that we're talking about. All right, to quickly look at the code, you can see the code, there's not a lot. It looks like a very much HTML document that you're used to. We load in the JavaScript SDK. I've defined the portal item that I want to have access to, which is my web map, and I load that and assign it to a map view. And now you'll notice that in every platform, the pattern is exactly the same. Same code pattern, I'm using the same resources. So another area where the ArcGIS platform really gives you leverage in your cross-platform development. You know, utilize the entire platform, and it gives you a better opportunity to deliver a robust app. All right, so can I show, unfortunately I can't broadcast this, but here's my iOS device running that same JavaScript, and here is an Android device running that same JavaScript. The exact same application in every environment, and it performs, you know, as expected. Of course, the network here is not cooperating with us, so the tiles are loading a little slow. That's really just the network performance. Okay. All right. So that's your JavaScript. Now let's look at Qt. All right. So Qt is an SDK that we provide that allows you to build for the ArcGIS runtime. So now you can build a native application. So you get native performance, you get native access to the device, and you could do a lot more than what you can do in JavaScript, performance-wise, feature-wise, and having access to native code. Now with the Qt SDK, you can develop in either C++ or QML. I chose QML because it's nice and easy. It's also very JavaScript-like. So you can see the code looks very similar to my JavaScript code. So again, I have a portal item, and the item ID is the exact same item ID that I showed you in the JavaScript example. And I am loading that up and assigning it to a map view. The exact same thing. So now with Qt, I can run this and target the desktop and have a native desktop application. Oh, okay. Where'd you get that?
Always prepared.
All right, now you see the exact same map now running in a desktop native environment, not in the browser. So you could package this up as an executable and deliver it to your to your users. You could distribute this application, say, in the Windows Store, all right, as it loads. So now you can see the same trailheads, polygons. We can zoom in, all right, and you can see our cool map. All right, that's great. Now, I can target also Android and iOS. Same code base. All I'm doing now is switching the build target. All right, I just got to wait for the build target to get redeployed. Oh, oops, my fault. All right, see, the device wasn't connected. So now the device is connected, we build, and we deploy to the device, and we can test it. As you can see with cross-platform development, you spend a lot of time waiting for compiles and deploys to devices. Okay, one. All right, and there's our map running now on iOS from the Qt SDK. This is actually a native app. This is not a browser or a browser view. This is actually a native app running on iOS. Okay, and then I could do the same deploy for Android as well. So I've got Android Studio set up there, but I'm going to switch now to Xamarin and the .NET SDK. Which one? At least I think I am. Come on. All right, well, sorry about that, guys. I can't get the HDMI, or am I in the wrong port? All right, so on Windows, I've got that same JavaScript running inside Chrome in this particular case. Now I'm going to switch over to Visual Studio. And here, any of you guys familiar with C# and WPF development? I've got my application here loading the exact same item ID that we saw in the other labs and the other demos. And I'm loading that off ArcGIS Online. I'm loading it into a map and assigning that map to a map view. All right, now here I can deploy to Android, iOS, and Windows Universal. So I'll just quickly show you the native app running here locally, which is good for testing because it loads very quickly. And then on Xamarin, you would also need to install Android Studio to do your Android build, and you would need access to a Mac, which will connect over the network, and Xamarin will do the build to your Mac Xcode setup and build it there, and you can test it on your Mac. All right, and that pretty much concludes the demo. Any questions, or anybody want to see anything in particular?
Okay, thanks, John.
All right.
Let's flip it over to number 3, and then we'll finish this up. Great. So we got about 5 minutes left. Just want to finish off with a slide on questions here. Before we get to questions, there's actually a document out on our developer site, great destination for developers who are looking to take advantage of both our web and our native solutions. There's a document out here that actually walks you through some of these details on being able to sort of slice and dice or parse through the different operating system and browser targets and capability targets that you want to be able to use. It's a long URL. I put it up here for accounting reasons, so that we're recording this obviously too. So, but when you go out to find this, there's actually a couple different ways to get to it. But the title is Choosing the Right Esri API. And it's a good resource for being able to kind of walk through some of these processes and questions to figure out what Esri API is right for you. With that, we finish up our demo theater. Are there any questions thus far? Yikes. Wow. Hearing check. There we go. Good stuff. Okay, good deal. Hey, thanks guys for attending. If you have any questions, feel free to come up and talk to both of us. If you'd like to see some of the code that John's demoed, feel free to come up and take a look at some of that code. We try to give you kind of a rip-roaring tour through some of the cross-platform capabilities and developer capabilities with web and native Esri APIs. So hope you have a good rest of the conference, and any questions, feel free to come and pull us aside. Great, thank you.